Welcome, fans, to episode 110 of Rangers Ed. Our usual host, Cousin Ed, is out this week, so here I am, Little Ed, filling in as host. I'm here with Coach Ed, as usual, and our producer, Mikey Produces. How are you guys doing?
Very well. What's going on, fellas?
Hopefully a lot better than the Rangers are doing right now, but you guys had a nice weekend down in Florida together, so why don't you give us a little tidbit about that?
I had to come back to New York to warm up.
Yeah, what's
Yeah,
that
you
about?
definitely chose the coldest weekend of the year, I think, down here in Florida.
Oh, it's not
Yeah,
much warmer here, that's for sure.
I think I'm on a run with vacations to warm climates being cold. Started in LA a couple of years ago. They had a snowstorm. And then we went to Raleigh that year. They had a snowstorm. Every time I go to Florida,
Oh yeah,
every
that's
time I
right.
go to a warm weather climate in the winter, it's they have their worst storm in 100 years or whatever.
Their history. Yeah. Yeah, that was
You
right
might
before
need it.
COVID. We went on that trip too, right? So it was probably like late February,
Yeah.
early March. Um, yeah. So while you were away, I hosted the Learn to Skate program on Sunday. Shout out to our boy Tony Rosato for putting that together for the kids. Went really well. We had a few more, I guess you would call it more advanced players as opposed to the beginners, just learning how to skate. Overall, I think everyone had a good time. I want to give a little shout out to Liam. He's probably like our best skater so far, or our best player, if you'd say. And he's super into it, really attentive, and it's been a pleasure to coach him. So shout out to Liam, and then also shout out to Jackson and Landon for being there as well. I'm sure they had a blast. I had a blast. It was a little cold, so I'm surprised they lasted as long as they did. It was 20 degrees before the wind
Oh,
chill. So yeah,
ooh,
we were a little chilly out there on the rink, but it was a good time. Once you're out there and skating around, it's really not that bad. But like Coach Ed said, it's all part of the experience.
that's
Um,
Yeah, that,
that was in Syosset this week.
yeah, it was in Syosset. So the ice is perfect. I love it when the ice is just like, I guess, I don't know, you call it naturally just freezing, naturally cold. They don't need the refrigeration system or anything for that kind of weather. And that's when the ice is nice and crisp and you could stop a little bit better. And it's really just a nice sheet of ice out there. So yeah, we had a good time, a lot of progression, and had some fun. I timed the kid Liam. He got around the entire rink in 33 seconds. And I think he's 5 years old or 6 years old. So that
Wow.
was
that's
pretty
awesome.
funny. He did it once. No, what did I say? 36? Yeah, he did it the first time, 36 seconds. And he comes over. He goes, Coach, I think I could do it faster. I was like, I think you could do it too. So he did it again. He got 33 seconds. So
Wow.
every week I'm gonna time him, and hopefully he improves a little bit. And he told me, he's like, all I want to do is catch my older brother. We have a rink in our backyard and I can't catch him. So I want to catch him. I was like, all right, we're gonna get faster, don't you worry. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's awesome that you
Yeah.
guys are doing that.
Yeah, so it's not too late. I mean, if any listeners out there want to join, just shoot me a message on Instagram or email. Um, our email is rangers.ed1994. No, I'm sorry, rangersed.1994 at Gmail if you don't have Instagram or social media. But Instagram is probably the best way to get in touch with me. And yeah, we can add you to the list and we'll prorate the cost and everything. So don't worry about that. We'll figure it out. So yeah, it's a good time. So what do you guys say we get into the episode? We got a good one for the fans out there. One of the big interviews that we've been teasing for a while, or kind of telling you guys that we landed but not releasing, is Mike Kelly is on this episode. So we're very excited to drop this interview with him. He goes into a lot of analytics and goes into some battles with Coach Ed about the eye test versus analytics. And the best part about it is he isn't shut off to the eye test, and he's not just all analytics. He respects both sides of it. He incorporates his own form of the eye test into his analytics, and I think that's a good way to do things. And I think you guys will really enjoy that interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely great.
Yeah, so that will be coming up in a little while. But before that, let's get into the jersey profile sponsored by Oscars Pro Stitch.
Our buddy Oscar, a huge Rangers fan himself, started his company by stitching his own blue shirts. Once he perfected his craft and started to fall in love with his work, the man started to grow. Oscar stitches every jersey with love and dedication to authenticity, which never disappoints. His talent is hard to find in any store out there. Are you like Cousin Ed? You have a lingering jersey curse that every player he gets a jersey of gets traded or injured and hurts the Rangers team? You want to change things up? You want to take an Eric Lindros jersey and make it a vintage Ken Hodge jersey in the late 70s? Got an old jersey collecting dust in your closet? Want to throw your name on the back and add a nice number of one of your favorite players? You can bring it back to life with a brand new kit at Oscar's Pro Stitch. So head on over to Oscar's Instagram at Oscars PSH. That's OSCARS PSH to check out the countless tarps he's already done and to place the order for his next one that possibly can post on Instagram and get ready to wear it to the next Ranger game or any event that you have coming up. Tell them the boys from Rangers Ed sent you and receive a special discount at Oscar's Pro Stitch Hockey. Go get them, Rangers.
All right, so this week we got number 10, Esa Tikkanen. So, I mean, this one was a little difficult to choose. Obviously, the bread man currently wears number 10 for the Rangers. Wasn't going to go with him. I think everyone out there knows a lot about him. So similar to last week, we wanted to go with the Rangers legend that you may or may not know much about. And Ron Duguay would have been another pick. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to do another one. But for now, number 10, Esa Tikkanen, known as the Great One. But he spelled it Grate, and he was given that nickname by Wayne Gretzky, the Great One. And it was for his ability to irritate opposing players, often just by talking to them in his Finnish, English, Tikkanese, or Tiki talk. His regular season totals were 244 goals, 386 assists, and 1,077 penalty minutes. So I thought that was funny. I chose Tikkanen because I have some memories for the 94 and beyond, I guess, of him being a Ranger. I don't know if you remember, Dad, of me being a kid. For whatever reason, I was attracted to him. I thought it was funny, or thought he was just like a character out there. So do you remember anything from when I was younger, or anything from when he was playing?
Yeah, I mean, it was just if you were watching the Ranger games, it was always like it just happened to be the camera caught it a lot. That's probably how you got so attached at a young age. It was just like an entertaining part of the game, a little bit of a showman. You know, the famous one is where he kissed, I forget who it was. He kissed him when they were like in the scrum, and definitely a big part of the Rangers winning the cup on that playoff run. You know, to me, it was Leach, Messier, Larmer, Tikkanen.
Well,
and
he famously got traded to the Rangers for Doug Weight, right? Cousin Ed brings that up whenever he gets the chance. But you got to think that Messier and Glenn Sather, right? They all had a reason for bringing him over, and it worked out. So he played 4 total seasons with the Rangers, 144 games, but he had 3 separate stints with the Rangers. He later on got traded back to them from Vancouver. And also later on, he just signed as a free agent and ended his career as a Ranger. So I thought that was interesting as well. He wasn't only on the 94 team. He came back for 2 more tours, if you will, with the Rangers. As a Ranger, he had 25 goals, 42 assists, 67 points total. Not all with the Rangers. He was a 4-time Selke Trophy finalist. Most of those are with his time with the Oilers. Obviously, he was on the 1993-94 Stanley Cup championship team. Other than that, he won the Cup 4 more times, all with Edmonton. Lastly, I thought this was his biggest accomplishment. He didn't score many regular season goals or points, but he was very well known for his playoff appearances and his playoff, play, I guess. That's why he got traded so many times, that all these teams just wanted him for their playoff run. So in 186 playoff games total, he tallied 72 goals, which is 14th all time, which I thought was very interesting. You wouldn't expect Tikkanen to be even in like the top 20, top 30, never mind 14th. So, and then other than that, he had 132 points, which is 38th all time as well. So, Yeah, clearly this guy showed up in the playoffs, and he was kind of like a mercenary for a lot of teams going for their cups. But the Rangers were the only ones other than Edmonton to really succeed on that. Anything other than that for Tikkanen? I
No, I
wanted
mean
to
the
read a
three
little
separate.
blurb about the Tikkanese also.
Yeah, the three separate stints surprised me. I didn't really remember that, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But
I can get the
yeah,
years for you if you want. I think it was like 96, 97. And then later on, he retired with the Rangers, like I said.
Unfortunately, I think
He also
everyone's
holds the
gonna remember.
NHL record for scoring 2 shorthanded goals in the shortest time, which is 10 seconds apart, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. I guess it was a 5-minute major where the guy didn't come out of the box and he scored 2 shorthanded goals. It's pretty crazy. And
wow.
No one's gonna break that.
yeah, other than that, with the Tikkanese, Tikkanen was famous for his Finnish, English, sometimes referred to as Tikkanese or Tiki Talk. Even members of his team often did not understand what he was saying. Wayne Gretzky once commented, "He brings something special. I don't know what it is, but if you ask him, you probably couldn't understand what his answer was." For Edmonton, the coach and teammate Craig McTavish said, "Essa talks twice as much as anybody else. That's because you can only understand half of what he says." So obviously, he was very effective on and off the ice. Seemed like he was a locker room glue guy. So shout out to Esa Tikkanen, forever a Ranger. He always gets in. He always gets invited back to all the jersey retirements, and he was there for the '94 anniversary party for sure. So he's still a little bit involved in the organization. At least he gets invited to their events. So maybe we'll see him again soon.
Very cool.
All right, fans.
Like I said, a big part of the cup year. Big part of the Stanley Cup year for sure.
Yeah. Seems like he was a big part of the Edmonton Oilers dynasty as well. And like I said, a lot of teams wanted his playoff experience. All right. So before we get into the topics, the Rangers are 2-2 since last episode. They still sit hanging on by a thread, first in the Metro and 5th place in the East with a total of 60 points. As of late, the Rangers aren't playing very strongly. I think you guys would agree. But we're coming off a win last night. What'd you say?
Fully.
Yeah, coming off a win last night off of Anaheim. But other than that, this stretch, nothing really too much positives. So with that, I thought it would be a good idea to bring in some mailbags from our fans out there. We got one from across the pond in England, our buddy George, who has his own little Instagram. So before Mikey runs it, I just want to give you guys a warning. It goes in and out a little bit. He was outside, so I think the wind was affecting his microphone on his phone. So if you guys can't hear him too well, that's why. But we'll reiterate it after we run the video.
Hi, I'm George White. I'm from England. I'm the owner of George's Hockey Corner. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, X, which is now Twitter. No, sorry, other way around. It used to be called Twitter, but now called X. And I've also got a YouTube channel under the same name. My question for you is if you could spend an hour with any Rangers player, past or present, just talking to them, or like a hour day out or something, who would it be and why would you choose that player?
All right, so shout out to George's Hockey Corner on Instagram, Twitter, and X. That's what he was saying. Also, I believe he's on Facebook. So if you guys couldn't hear it, his question was, if you could hang out with any Ranger player, past or present, just for an hour or so, who would it be and why? Who wants to go first? Mikey, you want to take this one? Yeah, go for it.
I have 2 players.
2 players. Let's see it.
I have two.
You always got to add a part or something.
I couldn't tell if he said players or player, but the
Is it
first
one
player,
past and one present?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. So maybe we'll do that. Let's see what you got.
One past, well, he's not really present, but anyway, Sean Avery would definitely be my first pick.
Oh, I didn't even think of that one. That's a great one.
Sean Avery would definitely be my first pick. I mean, I just love the way he played. Seeing all his Instagram videos now, he's just like the type of person that I think I would just laugh for just an hour straight. And
I was gonna
he's got-
say Tikkanen might have been like an early Sean Avery, an OG
Right.
Sean Avery.
And then the second player would be, I don't know if anyone could see it up here, but it would definitely be Revo. I just love the way Revo plays. The fans might know this, but I just love fighting. I love when people throw fists in other people's faces. So hanging out with Reeves for an hour would just be awesome as well.
A little
Yeah, for
controversy
sure.
with Revo I saw going on. They have him on the IR, and supposedly he's healthy. He said
Really
up in Toronto. Yeah.
interesting.
But anyway, you want me to go next?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna go way back. I'd like to spend an hour with Emil the Cat Francis. He was the goalie for the Rangers. I'm gonna say like in the 50s. Then he became general manager and head coach at some point when I was a young kid and they were practicing in Long Beach. He's the one responsible for bringing them to Long Beach to practice and setting that whole thing up. And I would just like to hear the old stories from back then, that like we talked about the train rides and all that off ice happenings. And then I would go with Espo to hear the Boston Bruins Ranger stories,
Saga.
being a rival, then coming to the rival team.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a lot different then than now. Like if you were on the Islanders and you came to the Rangers now, it's not that big of a deal. But like if you were in the 70s on the Bruins, then you came to the Rangers, or vice versa. That was a bigger deal as far as playing on a rival.
Yeah, a lot less teams. I mean, some of those rivalries still live now, but I'm sure it wasn't nearly as heated or whatever as it was back then. Especially, obviously, the game's a lot different than it was back then with hitting, hooking, slashing, all that good stuff. Elbows. Can't even imagine what those guys went through and the stories that they could tell. Maybe we'll try and reach out to some of these guys and get them on the show. Mine, I'm gonna go current. I mean, I guess this might be an obvious one. Trouba. Not only is he my favorite, I guess, defenseman right now. I mean, he's the captain. I would love to hear how he's able to manage the locker room and stuff like that behind the scenes. But mainly, if you guys can see behind me on YouTube, I'm pretty artistic myself, and we've been seeing that Trouba has a soft artistic side to him. So I think him and I can come up with some cool hockey-themed art projects together. So. And I guess since you guys picked an old school one, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't know. I'll just go Messier. Go with the captain theme. I'm slowly reading his book, and I've been learning a lot. His interview with Lundqvist on Club 30 was awesome, very informative on how to conduct a team. And I actually learned a lot from my professional life as well, being able to lead a team and just – some of his sayings and quotes he was throwing around just kind of hit me. So I think learning a lot from Messier. So I guess that's kind of an obvious answer too, but what can you do? Sorry, George. So this next mailbag is from our buddy Nate. He submitted one. Was he our first mailbag or was Gaz our first mailbag?
I think Nate might have been.
I think Nate was our first mailbag. So Nate decided to come back on or with another mailbag, and this one's going to lead us into the episode, and I think you guys will know why in a second.
It's me, Nate, and my question today is, why do you think the Rangers have been struggling so much? Bye.
Short and sweet from Nate. But I heard he had 4 goals in his game over the weekend. So shout out to him. He's been
Big
crushing
shout
it.
out.
Yeah, big shout out. So he's been crushing it. His mom told me that he's going to be trying out for some 18th next year, and I'm sure he'll do well and keep advancing in his hockey career. But you still got to go to school, Nate. Don't forget about school. His mom told me that he was late for school today because he had too many hockey games over the weekend. So got to watch out for that. I'll go first on this one. I think it's not obvious, but very inconsistent play. Not from every Ranger. I think there's a handful that we're going to get into in this episode that have been consistent and haven't really let up much in the last couple games. But I think they kind of just lost their swagger. I think Nate will like that word. I think they kind of just lost it. I mean, they're in the beginning of the season. I remember passes were crisp, tape to tape. Flashy plays, highlight reel goals, things like that haven't really happened in a while. And I think I'm not really sure exactly what's going on, but I think they just got to figure it out. And I don't think it's really too much to worry about. I think they're just going through a weird part of the season, and hopefully they'll snap out of it soon. Coach, what do you think?
I mean, I know it's frustrating. I'm getting frustrated a little watching it too, but I feel like in watching highlights, on pretty much a daily basis, most teams are going through this. The Avalanche went through a 5-game losing streak. The Kings went through a 5 or 7-game losing streak, and they're considered one of the best defensive teams in the league. Every team that I've been paying attention to is going through these losing streaks. I think that you just need to weather the storm. I think it's also a fact that a lot of these games, it's the second time they're playing the Rangers. So they're learning from the first time. I'm sure they're watching films like every team tries to do against an opponent. So the lesson would be to maybe when you're playing a team the second time, just try a little harder and try to adapt to what they're doing and overcome that. That's going to be a lesson they need to learn, especially when the playoffs, when you're playing teams back to back during a series, you got to figure that stuff out very quick. You have to counter their moves very quickly. So it's going to be a lesson for them to learn during the season.
Well, before we get to Mike, I just want to touch on that. Do you think Laviolette is not preparing the other way around as much, or do you think this is kind of just falling on the players and their effort?
I think it's falling on the players. I can't believe that coaching staff doesn't have them prepared film-wise and teaching-wise and whatnot. I just think players fall into a rut. That's not just players. The whole team just falls into a little bit of a rut. I mean, other than Boston last year, no one goes on a consistent tear the entire season. There's going to be some bumps in the road. I mean, 2-2 is not horrible. I think to me, it's the goaltending that's more inconsistent than anything with Igor.
Took my answer.
All right, Mikey, what do you got?
No, like you said, it's definitely consistency. And for me, a big part of the consistency is the goaltending right now. Obviously Igor isn't Igor at all. We see some glances of old Igor, and same thing with Quick. Quick started the season so hot, and like Coach was saying, everyone just comes to a point where you just have a little fallout. But yeah, consistency I think is the major key for the Rangers right now.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Their power play's been consistent. I mean, Quick only let up 2 goals against the Kings. The team was kind of dead in front of him, I think. But
I thought Quick played amazing in that game. I mean, that game could have got out of hand quick, no pun intended. I really didn't do that on purpose, but they had a lot of high danger scoring chances or grade A chances that Quick shut them down. And I mean, I hate to say it, but if Igor is in net with those same chances, I don't think I trust that the game ends 2-1. So Shesterkin is definitely a concern, without a doubt. So I guess we'll start talking about him right away, since that was Mikey's answer. What do you think is the issue here? I mean, he's got to be spending time with Benoit Allaire. It's not like Allaire is on a leave or anything. He's obviously at practice. So what do you think's going on with him, Coach?
Again, I just think it's a mental lapse. I mean, watching all these highlight shows, all you're hearing about is Hellebuck, Swayman. You don't even hear Igor in the mix, which he should be. And again, if Cousin Ed was here, he'd say I'm just picking on him or trying to troll him. But that first year, I constantly said, I want to see it long term. Yeah, he's great, but let's not put him up on a pedestal yet. He's got to have that mental fortitude. And right now, I mean, last night's game, they were losing 2-0. He made some big saves. I was able to watch it on the airplane the second half of the game or so. He made some big saves in the third period, where in the last few games he hasn't been making those saves, and it's just been taking the wind out of their sails. So, like Mike said, he's been showing signs of his brilliance, and the next game he's letting up 4 or 5 goals. I mean, that's not good for a number one as cousin
Right.
Ed.
Without doubt. I mean, I guess you missed the 2 goals that he did let up. I thought that they were very weak. I mean,
Well,
Brian
that's what I'm
Boyle was
saying.
on.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but he let up those. I did see them. They showed them, and he let
Yeah.
up those 2 weak ones, and he was able to mentally hold on, and they got the win. That's the good sign, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with you in that, but at the same time, he could have. I mean, Quick only let up 2 goals also, and they still lost. So Igor did do his job, but at the same time, if he let up those 2 goals early, the game it still could have knocked on their way. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to say there, but to me, it's going to take a lot more than him just snapping out of it in one game. Let's see what he strings together the next couple games.
Yeah, it's crazy because he's still got a winning record. Like, how many wins? Like 17 wins or something?
17 or 18, yeah.
I think it's
Probably
18 now. I think
Yeah.
Eddie said it.
I
but
mean,
those
that's
10 losses are the big ones that we're talking
I
about.
know, but
last episode.
that's the good news. We're talking about him not playing good, and he's still got he's 18 and 10. So let's just hope that when they come playoff time, they're all clicking in the same on the same button.
Well, I think that's the thing is last year, I guess the Rangers are returning the favor a little bit. The big talk was Igor carried the Rangers through the last 2 seasons, and I don't think Igor is really responsible for a lot of the wins that he has this year. I think the Rangers stole a lot of those wins early on with their play, and it seems like their gameplay is sliding a little bit. So then the goaltending or lack thereof is kind of being more obvious.
Exposed.
Yeah. So I think hopefully he snaps out of it soon. We know he has it in him. I mean, our fan Pete mentioned that he might still be hurt or hurting a little bit. So I don't know if that's the case. If that was, I don't know if they would risk it, especially if they have Quick playing as well as he has been. So yeah, I mean, either way, he's just got to figure it out, snap out of it. He definitely shouldn't be going to the All-Star game, I don't think. But at this point, I don't think he really has a choice. Not even like getting picked. Like he shouldn't go. Like he should just be like, I'm hurt, and reset his mind, go on vacation, whatever he has to do.
Yeah.
But messing around the All-Star game and the skills competition and shit is not going to fix his game. And yeah, our buddy Pete was saying that was really pissing him off, and I can't agree more. So that's tough.
I feel like
Other than Shesterkin, what?
I just think he's too comfortable right now. I think I think the wins are going to his head. I think he's like used to the team bailing him out, and
well, the wins are great, like I was saying, but he's like ranking almost last in the league in a lot of categories. Goals saved above expected and all those fancy stats. He's not really showing the Igor that we're used to seeing. But on the other side of the spectrum, our boys Trocheck, Laffy, and Panarin seem to be playing or continue to play well. I mean, I guess other than the Vegas game, the entire team didn't play well. But other than that, they seem to be doing all right. Redman can't be stopped. And Laffy, I just love the way he's playing. And there's no secret that Trocheck is doing his job. Coach, you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about Trocheck for a few weeks now. It's nice that he was put on the All-Star team. I think you sent that out today. I didn't know that. That's great. I mean, he definitely deserves it. He's playing an all-around game, special teams, both sides, up and down the ice.
So he was selected.
I think Laffy on that line helps because Laffy's defensively responsible. He moves the puck out of the zone pretty well. I don't know his stats on that.
Yeah, so I think their biggest. I think they're Trocheck was selected by the fans, which I was going to say. I think that almost means more right now getting selected by the fans than it does by the league. because the league
Yeah, I
is just
agree.
looking for someone to represent the league well, like from each team, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then the fans are actually voting who actually deserves to be there, I think. So I think it's more of an honor to get selected by the fans than it is the league. Maybe Cousin Ed can go on another rant next week about the All-Star game.
Now, I don't know if you guys saw it, but Rupper and Corey Schneider did this segment. They do that segment on NHL. It's the inside the video room. And they
Mhm.
were showing how Panarin scored last night on that power play. Draisaitl is like almost kind of started it, where he's like below the circle, set up way wide, and they make the play where they bring they get the goalie to come to the top of the crease, and it's almost impossible to get that slide back into the post to cover that angle. So it's like part of a power play where they get it to they get the bumper guy to get a little higher, and the goalie comes out higher, and then they get it across, and that it's like an impossible angle. Like Rupper was going nuts, and they were asking Corey Schneider, "How do you play it as a goalie?" It was very interesting. I like to try to get that segment. Maybe you could post it or something. I'll find it, but it was cool as hell.
Well,
The
maybe
way
we
they
have
show
a
him.
next week coach's corner.
I was going to
Draw
say,
it on
get
the
the
board.
board out. Yeah.
Yeah, I could do it with the board next week. We'll go over that. I'll try to get the video from Rupper.
Do you have a protractor?
It's
Get the right
pretty
angles?
much what you need. It's pretty much what you need, because Rupper's like, what do you like? They call that a reverse V when the goalie goes from post to post and picks the one leg up and goes back or something. And Rupper's like, I don't even know what you would call that move. It's a spin, turn, kick. And Corey Schneider's like, it's impossible to get there. It's physically impossible.
Another player, I mean, you mentioned the power play before. Another player that I thought wasn't doing so hot, even on the power plays, Adam Fox. Seems like he's breaking out of that a little bit last night. He had a few points on the power play, seems like he's seeing the ice a lot better, making those Adam Fox type passes that we're used to seeing. He's joining the rush a little bit more, looking for those passes in front of the net. So he's been very noticeable out there, comparing to other defensemen that I don't know if we should continue to harp on or not. But yeah, I just wanted to throw Fox's name out there. I think he had a great game last night. And I guess against the Kings as well, he played well. So yeah, it's good to see him kind of getting comfortable again and making those, like I said, Adam Fox plays that we're used to seeing and wowing us a little bit.
What was the game he had 2 goals in? Was it the Kraken or Vegas?
Vegas, they lost 5-1, so it must have been the Kraken.
Yeah, because Vegas, I think he was in the box twice too. He's been a little he's been a little turned around at points where I don't want to say he's lost, but like I said, teams are figuring things out. They're playing to weaknesses, I'm sure. And he struggled. He was a little inconsistent too, like you said. So it is good to see him come back last night.
I think for some reason the power play
last stretch. I think
the power play looked better when Gustafsson was in for Fox. I don't know about you.
I was going to say I also like when Gustafsson was playing with Fox as a pair for a little bit. I noticed. I guess they throw him out there when they want a little bit more offense, and I like them working together. A little lefty righty action. I don't know if you noticed that, Coach.
Yeah, I did see that. I thought it was just because it was after a penalty kill or whatever. I didn't really get to see the game in full.
Yeah,
it was like expanded coverage on NHL Network. Yeah, I mean Gustafsson's what we had mentioned that before, that he's a big find. The kid plays.
Yeah,
he
plays
sat
really
out
well.
one game. Did they say he was injured? Jones was in against LA, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I don't think he was injured. I think he was just healthy scratch. I don't remember. So I don't know. Laviolette has known him for a while. Maybe he thought that he needed a rest, or he just needed a quick reset, or maybe just is something simple that they wanted to get Jones in the lineup for a game. You got to toss him a game every once in a while too, right? You got to keep him a little game in shape. also. So, and I
Oh,
don't
I
think
don't
they're
know.
going to take anybody else out of the lineup.
I don't know if you watched that Tortorella press conference I sent, but oh my God. These reporters just ask him that question. They ask him, do you ever have to, do you ever just say, I got to get this guy in the lineup and sit at one guy? And he just went off on the reporter. He's like, are you crazy? Do you think that happens? I am not putting a guy in because he needs to get in. If a guy's playing real good, I'm not sitting him. I don't know. I don't buy that. I have to agree with I love Tortorella. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
buy that. I disagree with you on that. I don't think Laviolette would do that. There might have been a reason. Either he was hurting a little, maybe he had a little bit of the flu, maybe he just didn't feel good that night. But I don't think coaches at that level are going to do that unless it's like the Blackhawks where they're a complete rebuild team. But when you're in
Yeah.
a race, I think you're going with the guys that are playing, and you're not going to sit a guy to find time to get another guy in. But
No, you're probably right.
with the Rangers, where there are inconsistent play, that maybe that is the case. But he's not sitting a guy that's playing real well just to get Jones in the lineup. I would be shocked.
No, you're probably right. I mean, the Rangers, a few of them have been battling the flu, and I know Mika was out for a game. Everyone's a little bit banged up. Like I said, it's kind of that weird part of the season, in the middle of the season, the doldrums, if you will, and everyone's kind of going through something. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure like I said, he probably just needed to sit down for a game, maybe get a little reset, just take a breather, and it seemed like it worked because he came back pretty strong.
Oh,
So
he was flying last night. Yeah.
whether it was just rest or, like I said, a message, either way, it worked. Just a quick
Yeah.
correction: Fox had those 2 goals against Washington. The loss against Washington, 3-2.
Oh, sorry. All right.
No, yeah, it seems like it was more recent than that. But yeah, I guess since that game, Fox has been definitely picking it up. But last night, and I guess the game before, I just noticed a lot of those passes that he's usually makes. The other one I got to say, like I said, I don't want to harp on it for too long again, is just Keandre Miller, man. I think he's a big part of this stretch of like poor defensive play. Trouba seems to be doing his job, doing everything he can defensively, and it's visibly noticeable what Keandre is going through, and he just seems lazy. Like I said last episode, like he lets guys go by him to get to the net. Like even if the whistle's going to be blown, like it's just like he always seems like he's chasing someone. You know what I mean? Like he's always recovering.
Yeah.
Like you always see the back of his jersey, not the front of his jersey. And I feel like as a defenseman, that's not a good thing. Like he's always chasing, he's always turning around to go chase someone to the net, whatever the case may be. But he seems a little lost out there.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed it last night. Again, I only saw pretty much half the game, but the LA game, the same thing. I think when these teams are fast and he's lacking that split-second decision-making ability where he gets caught in between, and he has to recover, and he just lets guys go. He just lets guys go. I watched Zach Jones against LA. I thought Zach Jones did a good job without the
puck. He had a great game. He had a great game against LA. I thought he was skating well. Played pretty tough too. He wasn't like shying away from the corners or anything like that. I think he just had an overall solid game. So I don't think Keandre is going to be taken out of the lineup anytime soon. But if I was him, I would try and snap out of it as soon as possible because I see a lot of Ranger fans upset online and already calling for trades. And not going to lie, I'm one of them. So
wow.
Well, I'm not going to.
What?
Look, if it's the right trade, I got no problem. Yeah, if it's the right trade, I got no problem with it either.
No, something's up. Something is up. It might come out. He's definitely dealing with something. He's mentally not that man has the potential to be a legit superstar with his size, speed, hands, everything. Something is not going on correctly in his life or something, but I would not trade him. I can't believe you guys would say that.
For the right
price,
didn't say
I would trade him if the right opportunity came up. I wouldn't say he's untouchable.
I mean, I guess we would need Cousin Ed here to talk about any potential trades that could happen for me to say yes or no. But I wouldn't say he's untouchable by any means. And I don't think I ever felt that way, realistically. I mean, maybe someone can go back to an old episode and call me out, but it's been a while since I've been on the Keandre train. Put it that way.
Let's see. Who would you trade Keandre for? It would have to be a key part to get them in, key playoff type player like Tikkanen, where it's going to mean something. End of the season push into the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, the Rangers have to be in a very solid place to make that trade. I mean, I don't think Drury's going to mortgage any more of the future. I don't know. I have a feeling that they're still high on Keandre. I don't know what the personal issue could be. I mean, he's still on social media. He's still posting normally with his girlfriend and stuff. So to me, if he's having some personal issues, that would be the first thing I would do is just get off of that. He did turn off the comments on all of his posts, though. So maybe all the fans are tormenting him a little bit.
Could be.
That could be it. I hate to put all the blame on him. I mean, Coach, you did mention that their power play hasn't been lacking lately. I agree with that. I'm sure Mikey would too. So I think really what it is the 5-on-5 metrics and analytics. And I think this would be a good time to throw it over to Mike Kelly and talk about some of the Rangers' troubles that they're having lately in the analytic department, especially 5-on-5. So without further ado, see what we got with Mike Kelly. Enjoy, fellas.
NHL Network.
Welcome to the podcast. Mike Kelly, NHL Network analyst. Also, you do some work with Sport Logic. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I'm really excited about you coming on because I'm actually into analytics. Obviously, in talking to you, I'm going to not know anything because I've seen, I follow your tweets and I see the things you talk about. I don't follow that closely, but I do like the analytics world. First, just tell us a little bit about Sport Logic. Is that a company you work with? Is that where you get the data from, or what is that?
Yeah, no, I'm a full-on employee. I'm the director of analytics and insights at Sport Logic. We are a third-party data supplier. We work with 31 of the 32 teams in the NHL. We are an official data supplier for the SHL and Allsvenskan in Sweden. We work with a number of different leagues around the world and track different leagues around the world as well, junior level, NCAA, that kind of thing. Official tech partner of the PWHL, which we're really excited about, which obviously just got started. So, I can say objectively, I think we're the industry leader when it comes to hockey in providing this type of information. And the great thing for me is just like growing up as a hockey nerd fan, guy was, I have access to such great information and I work with such intelligent people that every day I get to kind of dig into this stuff and I just love problem solving, really. So like it's I'm a kid in a candy store getting to work there.
That's great. So you've done this, I guess, like your whole life. You've been interested in the analytics side of the game, or did you play it all as a kid?
Yeah, I played growing up, like any kid who grows up in, I don't know, I guess just about anywhere in Canada, but small town Canada for sure. I played until I was about 14. I was a little better at baseball, so I took that a bit farther. But yeah, like I'm lucky. I've got like my 8 to 10 best friends that I've literally known since the first grade. And I moved around a lot as a kid to different places. I know how kind of special that is, but even they were like, yeah, you're a bit of a nerd. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like, yeah, you are. And, but like, I'd play like mini sticks and keep scores and make up games when I was like 7 and 8. And so I've always been kind of interested in that stuff anyways. So getting into this, like, obviously I love playing it. I love talking, and I get the opportunity through my work to talk to people who play in the league and played in the league and coach and get in their perspective. I love it. I'd say I could literally do it all day, but I do it all day. So it's fun.
That's interesting. The reason why I'm pointing or trying to point at my nephew is because we used to play backyard wiffle ball when the boys were like 12 to 14, and he used to keep a scorebook and have stats every week of who did what last week, and
Had a
so on.
website,
So it
everything.
sounds
Yeah,
a little
I did.
familiar.
That's
I
awesome.
did do.
You know what? I'd like to give a shout out actually, and I don't even know the guy's name, but I played baseball as a kid, and in Canada, baseball's not as big as it is in the US. I was lucky, like towards the end of my baseball, we'd go down and play US colleges and stuff, and I kind of got to see what it means down there, which was really cool. But I remember being in high school, and so our high school didn't have a baseball team, but there was a softball like tournament they'd be in every year, so I'd play in it. And this coach, he was a gym teacher. I remember one time he's like, you're whatever position I was, he's like, keep, do the score book thing, right? Like guy goes to first, G5, whatever it is. So I was keeping track of like, okay, this guy's 2 for 3, like 667 batting average, whatever. He walks by, looks at me, he's like, hey, don't write that down. Stats are for losers. So to that guy, I'm doing all right now.
Yeah, wherever you are now.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah, it's funny.
I
That's
win.
funny.
Very true.
You
No,
are
seriously though, they're making fun of me, but I kept track of that, and because I did that, I was able to make fun of my dad by telling him that he hit it back to the box. Like how many times in a row was it?
Oh, that's
Oh my
hilarious.
God.
There was like it was like 15 straight, like right back to the pitcher. So
There you go.
so there you go. I mean, stats have value.
Good times.
They do.
But I'm interested because you're really into the analytics, and you actually, like you said, you interact with the players and the coaches and stuff. And there's I feel like sometimes on the internet there's really a divergence of thought in like the eye test and the analytics world. So do you experience that when talking to actual hockey people, or is that really, you think that's mostly amongst the fans? Do you find like you have to bridge a gap? How does that work out for you?
Yeah, you experience kind of all sides of it. I don't think it's any different in that way than what fans go through in terms of debating things with each other. I've always tried to be very respectful of other people's knowledge in areas of expertise, and I've gotten into heated arguments with. It's one of my favorite things to do is get in these arguments with people who I really, really have a lot of respect for, who I'd say are experts in hockey, but it's because they were a GM or they were a player or whatever. Like, and we'll be talking about whatever it could be, a team or a player, and really disagree with each other. But because we have that level of respect for each other, it actually helps both of us, right? Because I get to see their perspective and they get to see mine, and we don't throw either one out. And in the end, it makes me better at my job. Like sometimes you do things like, hey, Mike Kelly, analytics expert. I don't really love the term because like expert to me is like you figured it out. And I don't think you could ever figure this stuff out, whether it's in sports or business or anything. But also, like, I have no interest in being that. I'm interested in being the best hockey analyst I can and understanding the game the best I can. And if all I did was come from a data-driven approach and ignore the rest of it, I'd be missing a significant part of the puzzle, however big that percentage of it might be. So I learn a ton from talking to people with different backgrounds and experiences. And I don't know, for me, like, I'll engage with just about anybody. I'm not going to give a lot of thought to people who I don't respect. So they might yell at me and say I'm an idiot. And I just, I move on, like, because what's the point?
God, I might as well go home then.
Was that you, Ed?
Yeah.
No, I gotta say, I watch NHL Network before work, and then I was watching it a lot on NHL Now, and you were on a lot. I'm not an analytics guy. I'm more like the John Tortorella guy, and this is why we always have that banter, me and my nephew. But no, I learned to appreciate what you do and what it has to do in the game. I'm more of an eye test guy. But that being said, are there any of these stats where you work that you actually kind of invented or brought on, or I don't know what the right term is, came up with?
Yeah. I was looking at one today that I've kind of been poking around at a little bit. And that's, again, one of the great things about working where I work. Like, so I'll give you the foundation of it. I was a really early employee at SportLogic. It was only about 9 months or a year old, I think, when I joined, and I've been there for 8 years. Christopher Boucher was the first kind of hockey guy there that laid the groundwork for creating most of the metrics and the stats that we compile. He's now the director of analytics for the Montreal Canadiens. So really great guy to learn from and early in my career. And like a lot of the different kind of stuff that we look at and we track came from the work that he did. But we're always innovating and evolving. I was curious recently just about how goalies do, relative to traffic and kind of adjusting for their save percentage, their goal saved above expected when they're facing any kind of traffic in front of them. So we've always had screenshot save percentage, things like that, rebounds, deflections as well. I just put the three of them together to kind of create this traffic save percentage, just to get an idea of a clean shot versus when there's another variable there that's difficult to account for. So stuff like that you just kind of play around with and you're like, does this have value? And maybe you look at it and you're like, yeah, I think it does, or maybe it doesn't. And I've called a couple friends of mine who were goalies in the league and asked them about it and got their thoughts. And so that's all kind of stuff that I really enjoy doing.
That's really interesting. So, I mean, like, what kind of feedback do you get when you do that? It seems like you're not really risking anything. I don't want to say you're not risking wasting your time, because you're kind of taking things that already exist, right, and kind of just putting them all together. So, like, am I like on track there?
In that example, sure. Yeah. Other times you can try to just come up with brand new metrics and see if they tell you anything of interest. You're getting like there's the puck and player tracking data now that the league is putting out, right? That's become publicly available for the first time this year. So they're accounting for things like skating speed. We've tracked possession entries and different types of zone entries for a long time. But then I start to get interested in like, well, is there, obviously gaining the zone with possession is preferable, which has been studied and understood, but is there an optimal speed or a baseline speed to create chances or goals at a certain rate that's preferable? Between the dots, like how many guys you see that cut to the middle of the ice and that's preferable, we know now. You're just kind of constantly trying to think about these new ways to try to understand the game. You guys won't like this example, but like this is eye test more than anything. I watch Jack Hughes when he's kind of outside the dots in the neutral zone, the way he can get into the middle of the ice, and you're like, somebody's going to blow him up, but nobody does because he can't. He's just that damn slippery. So yeah, it's one of the fun parts about the job is being able to try to just think of these things and actually having the resources to do a lot of the work.
Well, since you had to bring up Jack Hughes on the podcast, Coach Ed wants to recommend a stat for you.
What do you got?
Which one did you have for Lafreniere, Coach?
Well, we owe all the Ranger fans. I'm not on Twitter, but my son and nephew constantly tell me how all the fans are like, Laffy's not up to par for a number one pick, blah blah blah. Then they put him on the line with Filipino. I'm not a big fan of Filipino. I feel like he hits the goalie in the chest too much. That's a stat you got to come up with. How many times you hit the goalie in the label?
We've got it.
You got it already? Okay.
I don't have it in front of me right now, but we do have it. How often a goalie, it's called a crest shot. How often a goal?
Wow.
From the goalie standpoint, but from the player as well, how often a shot will hit the goalie in the crest.
So you mentioned the stat that I still don't really fully understand. My nephew explained it multiple times. The goals expected. So I said, why don't they have, when Laffy was put on the line with Heedle, because I figured he'd set him up multiple times a game, how about assists expected?
Got that too.
You do have it. Okay.
Yeah. And you know what?
Beat him over.
I never heard anybody say it. That's why.
Yeah. Well, that's a little newer than expected goals. Like it's a harder thing, especially like the reason you probably haven't heard it much is if you're looking at kind of public sites and some of the work that's being done in the public, and there's a lot of really great stuff out there. Passing statistics aren't something that's available, right? So that's stuff that we track and we've built, models around expected assists to try to give you that holistic view of like, well, this is expected goals, expected assists. Now you get expected points. And And for people that aren't that familiar with it, and I get it, you hear the word and you're like, expected what? Expected? I don't even know what that means. It's a goal or it isn't. Like, I get it. It's all it is just
Coach.
probability, right? Of this guy gets 10 shots from a great area. This guy gets 10 shots from a crappy area. The goal probability based on historically similar shots is going to be whatever to whatever. It's a fancy way of saying Matthew Tkachuk. Here's a good example. He's just scored a hat trick, right? This guy has had a lot of good chances all year, but he was stuck on 5 goals forever. His expected goals was much higher. When you see those things, somebody like me, who's kind of smart, but not that smart, can say, hey, this guy's going to start scoring. And guess what? He usually does. That's where it's helpful. And you want to get into like predictive types of analysis.
But don't you feel like a coach will know, like you see a lot of post games and like Laviolette will say a lot, like we had the chances, they were there, so I'm happy. They see that during the course of a game. They're not going to bench Tkachuk, say, because he's not putting the puck in the net. They see that he's in position. I don't think they need that stat, but I get what you're saying. But I just feel like you could base that expected assist on how many times he sets up a grade A chance, not just a pass.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is the thing that's all, just quickly that has kind of would bug me about assists. If you're going to hang like something on a guy about assists, is that you need the guy that's getting the puck to score. Like if Panarin sets me up with 30 grade A's, I'm going to score one of them, maybe. That's not because he's bad. It's because I can't shoot. So there's a variable there that has nothing to do with the person making the play. That's why it's important to understand these things. And a simple way to do it is slot pass completions, that home plate slot area. How many pass completions do you get into that area? The guys with the most are the guys that have a lot of assists for the most part. But you'll start to see every now and then a guy with a lot of those that doesn't have a lot of assists. Then you start to watch the video and try to understand why that is. That's where you can maybe try to find players that you're like, you know what, this guy's a really good playmaker. I know his stats don't say it, but we should bump him up, or we should try to acquire him. Or that's kind of how you just go about those things, or I do anyways.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really useful to use analytics in a way of finding like under the radar players who maybe need more of an opportunity, need to, play with better players to produce, right? So that's where I really like analytics to identify, like, for example, on the Rangers, like Eric Gustafson. Mm-hmm. Every chart I've seen on him throughout his career has been, this guy is a stud. This guy's a stud, but he's treated like a 6th defenseman by every team, and he can't get a contract over $1 million. But then we see him play, and we're like, oh, this guy's good, right? Because now he's on the Rangers, so we watch him every game. Guys like that, I feel like it's useful to take chances, right? Like, let's sign this guy. It's not going to cost us a lot. It's good cap hit, and he's trending in a good direction. Right? Do you find that to be the case more than like a Panarin, who we know who he is?
Yeah, I think you're bang on with that. Like, analytics can be fun to talk about how great Connor McDavid is, or to try to find a new angle on Connor McDavid, but you don't need it to know he's great. If you want to use this stuff, if you're a team, if you're an agent, a negotiation, whatever it might be, it's the margins, right? And that's where, like I always say, I've worked with players from a player development standpoint where I've worked with guys on tracking their performance and trying to find ways for them to improve. It's not, there's no holy grail, or certainly not one that I've found, that's like, hey, do this thing, you're going to get 120 points next year in a fat contract. But can we make you 1 or 2% better in your stick handling, or how you move the puck, or where you skate, or all these different areas? That adds up. And that's where you can find these guys in the margins. And you absolutely can do it with analytics to just try to be a little bit ahead of the curve, or ahead of the market. I've got examples of it. I know it works. And it's obviously something I believe in.
Well, you mentioned that you share your stats with 31 out of the 32 teams. Do you also share them like privately with players? I read that somewhere, but it seemed to be an older article, so I'm not sure. Do you still do that? Do you share them with players and agents?
It depends on the situation. Obviously the players and all the teams that we work with have access to whatever the team wants them to have access to, or whatever they request from the team. So this stuff's pretty widely available within hockey, just based on who we work with. But like going back a little farther in my career, I've done work with players. I've done work with agents. And it's something that most people, have interest in because they understand the value in it. And I think it was Ed that you were saying the coach is talking about scoring chances after a game, right? And you're right. A coach can watch a game. They're incredibly intelligent and experts at what they do and understand if they got more chances than the other team or not. But a lot of them are getting reports literally as periods end with this type of information on it, analytics reports that will have these things spelled out for them as well. So it's all kind of married into each other at this point.
Yeah, I could see that. This stuff that could be helpful because a lot of times as a coach, you get lost in the game a little bit. So they could throw that at you and say, okay, let me put this guy out on the face-off. When I started really paying attention to it a little bit it was probably about 6 years ago at trade deadline. Tampa Bay made a trade for somebody and they asked Weeksy on NHL Network, why'd they get this guy? And he came up with some stat, like 80% of the time he got the puck on his stick in the defensive zone, it got out of the zone. He was like a no-name player, but they were looking for that third or fourth liner that they needed for playoff time, So stuff like that, I really believe in a lot.
Yeah, and that's a great point because when you're, the trade deadline or there's certain times you're looking for something very specific, right? It's not always, hey, we want Patrick Kane, or hey, sorry to bring up an example that didn't work as well, but or hey, this superstar we want to sign in free agency, but this is how it works is a lot of times a front office, a manager will say, like, we need a third line center who can kill penalties, or a guy we can put on our fourth line on the wing who can kill penalties, whatever it is, right? Now you got to build a list of guys that fit this criteria. And then you got to whittle that list into the guys that you think are going to perform the best on your team. Maybe it has to do with the structure that you have, the system that you have. It gets pretty detailed. And so you want pretty detailed information on, okay, we know what we want this line to do. We know who he's going to be playing with, what situations they're going to be in. Is this somebody that can win board battles for us? Is it someone who can get pucks out, like your example? All that stuff, to be able to put a number on it, it's not the final answer, but it's further information and evidence to ultimately make your decision. So like the analogy I use all the time, if anyone gets into like pro or not analytics, is like if you're buying a house, you're going to walk into the house, kind of knock on the walls, look around and be like, yeah, I've lived in houses my whole life. I'm pretty much a house expert. So looks good. I'm going to buy it. Or are you going to get a house inspection? That's analytics, really, right? It's not, it shouldn't be, and it isn't in hockey anymore, but it shouldn't be this kind of yes or no thing.
Yeah, I think you need both, right? Because there are intangibles that you guys probably struggle to find analytics for, right? Like a guy like Barclay Goodrow or Nick Bonino, they're not going to do well analytically, but they bring a lot to the table, to a team, in the locker room, leadership, right? I mean, so that's probably something you guys have difficulty with, I would presume.
Sure. Like there's obviously variables we can't account for. And it's important to know that when you're working with the information, right? That's why like there's never a time, even in the work that I do, where I'll run numbers and I'll look at things from a data perspective and say like, now I get it. I've got all the answers, right? I've got what I can collect. But everything I know isn't everything there is to know. And that's something that's important to remember. So then I go out and say to someone, maybe who's played with a player or coached that team or whatever connection I can make, hey, this is what I've come up with. What do you think? I'll give you one example. Like I noticed in the playoffs a few years ago, there was a goalie, and there was a kind of an anomaly in the postseason where, we track how goalies do moving from one side to the other. If you're moving east-west, west-east on certain pass shots. And this guy was like unbeatable going one way and let in a ton of goals going the other way. Watch the video of it and you're like, all right, some of them are backdoor plays. He had no chance, but some of them like, yeah, there's something maybe there. And I called a coach and I said, if I gave you this information and I kind of laid it out, I'm like, what is there anything you'd do with it? And thinking that maybe you'd try to exploit that, right? If you determined you thought it was a weakness. And he said, for us to change the way that we're going to play in the offensive zone is probably going to hurt us more than it's going to help us trying to exploit this thing. So he's like, I'd want to know that information. Maybe I'd put it in the head of one or two of my more skilled guys because they can make those kind of plays, but I wouldn't change the way our team plays. I was like, that's great perspective to get, right? So that's how I always try to fill those gaps in.
Yeah, I agree with that because a lot of times, like, one of either my son or our other assistant coach will say, watching the warm up, oh, this kid's weak love side. If we start telling kids to think weak love side, that's too much information for them to process at our level, especially. But, relative to the speed of the game in the pros, it's the same thing. Now they got to think about getting that puck across the crease too much.
Yeah.
They might lose other chances. So I get what you're saying with that. That's an interesting look at it too.
Yeah. Plus the other team knows that, they also have the same stats, I'm sure, or similar stats. So they're defending against that pass, so now you're kind of changing. Yeah, it makes sense. I'm curious.
Too much information.
I'm curious I don't know if you have these stats available or anything, but the Rangers are a very power play heavy team.
Yeah.
And they have the best power play in the league and obviously a great record. I know they've been slipped in the last week or two, but they've been top of the league all season. I'm just curious, analytically 5-on-5, what are you guys seeing with the Rangers? And do you think that will translate to issues in the postseason if they get there?
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret that they've been like 5-on-5. They're kind of okay, right? And I don't think it's any secret that they've been dependent, even going back before this year, a little bit on special teams, power play, and goaltending. But that's like I never discount a team because of that, because it's a part of the team. Like there's been years where Shesterkin's had to be a hero for them because of what's been given up in front of him. But he's a part of the team. Like he can win a playoff round if he needs to. So yeah, it's true. There are other teams, certainly other contending teams that we're going to talk in the same conversation as the Rangers with that are better at 5-on-5. You don't want to be overly reliant on a power play. Like I've always said, I don't think you have to have a great power play to potentially win a Stanley Cup or be a great team. You need to have a good penalty kill. You don't score on the power play, you don't get a goal. You can't kill a penalty, you're letting them in, right? So I value that a little bit more. And of course, ideally, you'd like to be a strong 5-on-5 team too. But the Rangers, they're so good in a lot of different areas. I still view them as a top team.
Yeah,
Okay,
I like that
changed
perspective.
That changed from a couple of years ago. I like that, Mike.
I like
that.
Well,
there was a time where I wasn't buying Ranger stock. I picked up a little Ranger stock in the portfolio. Although it's funny, like someone sent me this clip. It must have been a Rangers fan, I guess. But I did. We do this analytics show every summer, and we kind of make predictions and stuff. And this was probably like 2020 maybe. It was a few years back, but I said by 2025 the Rangers are going to win a cup. And it was because like Shesterkin's young and upcoming, like a lot of the guys now that are their young good players, Fox, whatever, were kind of just there. And I'm like, they reminded me at the time anyways, just the top of my head, I remember saying like they remind me of kind of where Colorado has gotten to. And so I got this year and next year left. They better get it done in one of them.
I got one more question about the Rangers before we let you go. The other guys go. Now you do all the analytics. Say on we have this little thing we do a Norris Trophy watch. Like I kind of do it. Like when you have all the stats, when there's not Norris Trophy candidates, when you go to a game, do you watch them and get that intangible look in person? Because you can go by stat sheets, but I like to see them play in a game and what they do under pressure in situations and so on.
Live too, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes. He likes to see them live, is what he means.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think you need to do that. I just from what I gain watching a game in person versus, if I don't watch a game and I just look at a stats report, like there's a lot you miss. There's no question about it. I wish I could get to more games because of my work. I can't go as often as I like. Like I've only been to one game at the Bell Center in Montreal where I live this year, and it was against Pittsburgh. And that game, watching Crosby, just when he's on the ice, you follow him, right? You see everything that he does and how he does it. And I've watched, a good chunk of Penguins games this year. Again, I'm talking about all of the Rangers rivals right now, but
That's all right.
Okay.
I made the point on the NHL Network about this about a week ago. I'm like, this guy's in the Hart conversation. Like every single time I watch them play, he is willing them either to a win or a point in overtime or damn close in regulation. Like he is, and it's everything that he does. It's exactly what you're talking about, where you need to watch the games to fully get it. Our stats get a lot of it. But man, there's even more there. So a guy like Adam Fox, I think is probably his best asset is his brain and just watching the way he makes decisions, which again, if you can follow him around the ice out of the camera shot, you really get an even better appreciation for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched that like 2 years ago. I was amazed. You just see him what he does in tight spaces and pressure, and I don't see McAvoy doing it. I don't see a lot of these guys doing that kind of stuff. Yes, skating ability, it's not near those guys, but his overall mental capacity is just incredible in person.
Well, one of the things we track, we kind of speak to that, is possession success rate, right? So every time you have the puck in your stick, how often do you make a successful possession play versus a failed one? That could be a completed pass, a shot attempt, versus, a turnover or something that results in a loss of possession. Among defensemen, I mean, he's always way up there. It just kind of speaks to, he gets the puck, whatever he does is more than likely a positive play for the Rangers.
Yeah, because like a lot of the other guys, they'll just whip the puck around the board to where it should go, but Fox makes passes.
Yeah,
I'm watching. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He makes a play, like you said. He makes a play. That's it. That's pretty cool that you guys look at that. I like that. Not that you need my acknowledgement, but it's cool.
We
It
got
helps.
the coach at approval.
It helps.
Yeah, we'll take it.
I wasn't a big fan of yours like 4 or 5 years ago, Mike, but I've learned to love you. So
I appreciate that. And you know what's funny? Like I really do take that as a great compliment, and I appreciate it. And that's something I probably heard from like guys that I work with at the NHL Network who are ex-players or ex-coaches more than anything else, is like, I wasn't into this stuff. I didn't care, but like I've worked with you and I kind of get it now. And some guys love it now that you wouldn't think. It's not like I'm not patting myself on the back here. I just think that there really is great value in it. And if you're open-minded and you understand that no one's trying to push you and your way of thinking out, but it can help you. Man, it's great information.
Well, back when Reader and them were playing, plus minus was the biggest stat, right? And now that's kind of frowned
You know
upon.
what's scary is you still hear it in like contract negotiations, and it's we've evolved thankfully kind of away from it, but it's true. And it's this kind of thinking, like for me, it's a way of thinking more than anything else. It's just an analytical way of thinking. And so many guys, like I've had guys tell me like, yeah, I'm not big into the number side. And then they'll start talking to me about hockey. And I'm like, the way you're breaking this down, you're an analytical thinker. Like, you know what I mean? So, like Scotty Bowman going back decades ago was just charting on his own. Like, this guy was on for a goal for, this guy was on for a goal against. Like he was doing this before it ever existed to just try to see like who's out there when we get scored on a lot. It's just Roger Nielsen was innovative in a lot of ways. This stuff goes back decades. We're just kind of, obviously now with computers and technology, you can ramp it up.
How is the plus minus? We talk about it regularly. Like you see these guys with 47 points in 20 games and they're a minus. You figure that out. Where does that come in? You know what I'm talking about? Like how is Panarin only a +2?
Well, you get a lot of power play points could be part of it.
Yeah.
Other part of it could be you're on the ice a lot when, as a top offensive player, when your team has the goalie pulled, you get scored on, you get a minus. I mean, some of it is obviously 5-on-5 play, even strength play, which can't be great. But like I was going back to the full Erik Karlsson thing last year when people were trying to decide if they wanted to vote Norris Trophy for him or not, given that well, he plays in San Jose and look at his plus minus. And I'm like, yeah, the Sharks pull the goalie all the time because they never win. And he's always on the edge. He was like, I think he's literally a -20 because of empty net goals against.
Wow.
And there was like a +8 with it. So I think it was about a +12. That was just, there's no goalie in the net. So yeah, to say it's a bit of a flawed statistic would be an understatement.
Well, that should come. That, you know what, that should come out then, because that's like a special teams type of thing. That shouldn't be a plus minus.
Yeah, that should be like a shorthanded or a power play point.
Yeah, like the league counts 6-on-5 as even strength, right? Is how it happens. So I think what should just be done at this point is do away with plus minus and just come out with what it was ultimately meant to be, which is, you know, goal differential, but in proper, you know, 5-on-5, or like in proper game states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be 5-on-5 stat, or
5-on-5, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-4 goal differential across. So this way you can get context of when they're scoring and being scored against. I mean, for sure.
We'll call it true even strength, and it can be any situation where it's just the same dudes on the ice, same amount.
Put it in.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you'd have a lot of support behind you if you tried to push for that, Mike. But
let's do it.
Yeah, we had a chance to meet you guys at the game. I mean, that was a ton of fun. Is that something you guys do often? I mean, you mentioned that you don't get a chance to go as often as you would like, but you get to hang out with the NHL guys a lot.
Yeah, like, to be honest, I think if I had to kind of rate the best parts about what I get to do for a living, the research and the problem solving to me is the best part. Like, a lot of people will say, and it's, you know, fair for sure, is like, oh, you get to be on TV, like that's got to be really cool, right? And it is very cool. But I honestly, like, everything that goes before it is the best part of my day is
the preparation,
trying to problem solve all this stuff, and dig into stuff. Like that's what I'm really passionate about. The TV stuff is super fun, and really love it. And then the kind of second point, I guess, would be getting to hang out with these people. Like, at the end of the day, I'm still just a guy who loves the game and wants to know about it. And, you know, getting to sit after a show with Bill Lindsay the other day, the last time I was down in New Jersey, and just talk for an hour or so, you know, going and have beers or a dinner with other guys that I work with, and new people that I'm meeting. It's awesome. It's one of the best parts of it for sure. And then the hockey fan side of it, getting to meet you guys at the Rangers game was great. And we always love that. I don't get to go to games with our crew very often. That's more a playoff thing when it happens, if you're covering a series or a game or something like that. But you know, it's not like I get recognized that often, so it's not like I've got all these great stories about it. But anytime somebody's like, "Hey, I know you from the NHL Network," and you get to talk to them a bit, I never lose sight of how knowledgeable fans are. Like, a lot of fans are. It's always blows me away. And that's why, like, I take my job kind of seriously, in the sense that, like, I can't go and do a show at night and not have done my work going into it, because it's a national show, and tomorrow night, I might not talk about 20 fan bases, but I might talk about 5 or 6. The 5 or 6 that are watching know that team probably better than I do in a lot of ways, because they watch them every night, and they're reading the papers, and they're listening to the sports talk in the city. Like, I'm not doing that. So I better know as much as I can.
You got Coach Ed yelling at the TV 4 or 5 years ago at you when you didn't have your stock in the Rangers.
I can't mail it in with Coach Ed watching. I know this.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well, I got to give you guys credit, NHL Network. I always feel bad, like, approaching you guys, because it's kind of your night out. But you guys, Jackie, EJ, Reader, you, James, you guys took pictures with us. I love that. That's a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, like, another great part of it is literally everyone I work with there, I would love to hang out with them. And I do. Like, they're all just awesome people. I think you guys experienced that a little bit too, right? Like, there's no egos. Everybody's great. And just it makes working there and doing that kind of work like that much more enjoyable.
Yeah, you guys. I say it often that
the hockey world in general is like that. to me.
Yep.
You know, compared to other sports, and it's great. EJ recognized us up at the Hall of Fame. He saw us. He's like, "How you guys doing?" You know, it's like a regular person, not like, you know, to us, he's a celebrity. You know, you guys are celebrities to us, and just to talk like that is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. EJ's awesome. But he's like everybody else too, right? Where it just, it's really just normal people that love hockey. And that's the great thing is like everybody there, some guys played in the league, obviously most of them are coached in it or whatever. But everybody's bound by the same thing, which is like, we all like, what do you think we talk about when we go for dinner after, or we go for a beer after? We're talking about hockey the entire time, basically. And we just did that all day. So we really do love it.
That's
That's
great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, now
Listen, Mike.
you guys have something else to talk about it backstage about us. You, EJ, Jackie. You know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
You got to get all of them on the show too.
We have
We
them.
got Jackie and we got EJ. Jameson, we're trying to get, you know.
You got to go through JMO's agent. It's going to be a whole thing. He's going to, he's high maintenance. So
He's one of those pretty boys, huh?
You can afford to be, but
That's great.
Mike, you got to make sure before the deadline you tell Drury what the Rangers are missing so they could take the next step. We can't deal with another playoff tragedy this year. All right, we got to make a run. So,
well,
make
I
sure.
want to know what you guys think about this. But I thought when what went down last year, obviously Patrick Kane was linked there, and that was, you know, will it, won't it kind of thing for a while. And then it seemed like it wasn't going to happen, right? And they went out and got Tarasenko, which I think was their version of it. And then Kane was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the Rangers. And so now it's like, do you not take him? Of course you do. But now, and this is the point that I made last year that I thought was going to be problematic for them, was you got 3 guys in your top 6 that God love them and they're great players and you want them on your team, have little to no defensive impact on the game, right? When they don't have the puck on their stick, you're not getting much. And I thought that might be, could be a bit tough. I don't know that it came down to that exactly necessarily. And Kane was obviously injured and all that, but
yeah,
you know, you learn those
there's only one
too, right?
puck. Yeah, there's only one
Tarasenko,
puck.
you think Tarasenko is defensive deficient or whatever I'm trying to say?
I don't think he's going to win a Selke trophy anytime soon.
I thought he did. I thought he did well in the defensive zone, but what I don't have the analytics on it.
Yeah, what I mean by that is he's not a guy that's going to impact the game in a great way in terms of separating guys from pucks, causing turnovers. Which you don't have to be that guy if you're not turning pucks over and you manage it well. That's all good and well. There are a lot of great players in the league that don't impact the game at a high rate defensively. But I guess my point that I remember making at the time was when you've got half your top 6 that way, I wonder, right? Could that be a problem?
So
it makes sense. That's for sure.
Do you see the Rangers like heading in a different direction with their current top 6? And what do you think they should be adding or thinking about adding towards the deadline?
You know, that's a good question. I'd want to look a little more at it. I don't mind the makeup of their team, honestly. I think maybe you could use some more depth at forward. You know, third line, fourth line, whatever. I think Lafreniere, like he started so good and they've changed lines a little bit and maybe a bit of a dip for a while. Like I thought recently, at least in the games I've watched, he's been pretty strong. It's been a lot of games I've watched where he hasn't got a point, but I'm like that guy was a beast out there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's kind of where Coach O was getting or asking for his stats before. I mean, we're huge fans of Laffy on this podcast, and it's kind of we always hear that he doesn't have the points, but we're watching him every night, you know. So we see the effort, we see the drive, whatever you want to call it. So kind of like what you were saying, we knew it was going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, and it's not fair to him because he's always going to have the number 1 pick attached to him, right?
Right.
So if all you're ever going to do is compare him to other guys around him who are number 1 picks, like you're never going to be happy. He's just a player, and you want him to be the best player he can be, right? I think we're continuing to go in the right direction with him being that. So, I'm glad to hear you guys say that. And again, you guys watch the Rangers every game, so that's just what I've seen in the ones I've been able to watch too. So if you get that kind of progression, that's all good. Like, Jonathan Quick, I'll give, you know, Drury and the whole staff a lot of credit on this one. I didn't understand that signing at all. I was like, this guy behind a really good LA team was not good at all last year. And now you're going to a Ranger team that's not as good defensively as LA. He's been great. So
Benoit Allaire is the answer to that.
a lot of people say that, but like, again, we're talking about a Hall of Fame goalie too, right? And he's in New York now, right? Where he's from. Like, who knows what all goes into it. But
yeah,
Benoit Allaire, you can't really argue with that resume.
That's it. I mean, Mike, we've kept you long enough, man, on especially so late at night on a weeknight. So, we'll let you go, but we really appreciate you coming on. The analytics stuff is really interesting to me. I'm curious if Laffy's expected assists. I don't know if you could share that information. We'd be curious where he is, so maybe we'll tweet at you or something, and maybe you could share it. Because you're right, that's not available online. I looked at like Evolving Hockey and stuff, and I just couldn't find the stat. So I'm curious where he'd be at, but
I don't have it right in front of me, but we know how to get a hold of each other, and I'll look into it for you. I got no problem getting back to you guys on that.
No pressure if you're not able to. I don't know if it's publicly available, but I'm curious.
That'd be
great. Thank you for coming on and giving us 45 minutes of your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. And sorry I was late. Again, I apologize for that, but it's great connecting with you guys again. Like, it was cool seeing you at that game and chatting with you, and I'm glad we were able to find the time to do it.
Yeah, if you're heading back to the Garden, definitely. Yeah, if you're heading back, shoot us a message, and we could definitely meet up again. We're in the same seats, right by where you guys are usually sitting. So.
Well, I was hoping to go Sunday because I saw it was an afternoon game, but then I looked at my work schedule when I'm down there, and I'm doing the intermissions for the game. So from the studio in Secaucus. So I will not be there. Yeah. But you can look up when you're having a beer at the intermission at the TV and maybe listen to me go on about Lafreniere's expected assists in the game. If
we got a shout out from you, Mike, our lives would be made. So don't worry about that. But tell our fans where we could find you, where we can get the best stats, or all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you. NHL Network. I'll be on there Thursday night. I don't know when you guys put this out, so if it is after we tape this, I'll just say the day. And on Twitter at Mike Kelly NHL, if you want to give a follow there.
Yeah,
and Sports Logic.
You're a great follow.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and like I said, thanks a lot for having me, guys. It was good connecting with you again.
Absolutely, we'll definitely have you on again Mike. Sometime.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Later, buddy.
Really smart guy, man. That's awesome stuff. Coach, I love the
funny guy too. I was not expecting the comedy. It was great.
Yeah. I love the riff with Coach. You have to tell him like 3 times that he didn't like him, but now he likes him.
He just had to tell everyone that.
You got to tell him like it is. You got to tell him like it is. I can't,
Nah, he appreciated it. I feel like part of his mission is to talk to Coach Eds into the analytics.
No, you know what it is though. He's really into it. You can tell, but he has a great perspective, which is what I have been trying to say to you guys. It's part of the game. It's not. You can't just be obsessed with analytics, and that's it, because that's not all hockey is. There's a lot of things that can't be driven by analytics, and he gets that. You know what I mean? So when he's talking about it, he comes with an air of credibility. And I think that's going to get someone like Coach Ed to actually listen to what he's saying, because he's not saying it like the way you think about the game is wrong, and I'm telling you the way you should be thinking about it. He's saying this is just a piece for you to consider, and I think that's correct. So I think it's a really smart guy and really humble and awesome. Thank you. I can't thank him enough for coming on for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I know. We could talk to these guests forever, so we can only.
And at some point, I'm like, I gotta cut it off because he probably wants to go.
But at the same time, he might not want to. It's hard to figure that out. So
but then when you said to him, "Oh, thanks for coming on," he's like, "Well, let me just add one more thing." He extended.
I know you're
right. It wasn't like he was like, "All right, good night, I gotta go."
I'm curious on the expected assist, though. Hopefully, you could share it with us. I don't want to put him.
He'll do it. I think he will. Or you can message him. Either way. Yeah, let's just hope we can get some of these guys on for a part 2 because I mean I'm looking at the list of our questions and we didn't even get to half of them. So
You got to watch out now on NHL Network if he gets into Lafreniere's expected assists. Even
if
if
he
doesn't
gives us
shout
a
us
shout out, man, if he gives us a shout out, that'd be something.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
waiting
Even
for
if he doesn't
EJ to
shout
give
us
us
out.
one.
He's only on 1 day a week because I'll try to record it
He
because I
said
don't want
he
to miss
said Thursdays. He said Thursdays, and
hey,
he's doing the intermission. The Capitals are playing the Rangers on Sunday, right?
Yeah,
Or is it next week?
Saturday.
I think it's Saturday. Yeah.
Saturday.
Okay, either way, we'll have to check it out. See if he gives us a shout. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious. I
They play
would die
Saturday
if he
and
was like,
Sunday. Saturday in Washington, Sunday at the Garden, home and home.
Yeah, but the Sundays at the Garden is at 1:00. That's the game that he said.
Yeah, it's on NHL Network.
He said he wanted to go to the game, but he found out that he has to work the game in the studio.
Yeah.
we're not going to get that feed though.
No, we won't. We'll get the studio feed. We might get the studio
think
feed.
so.
The
No,
intermission.
you're gonna get
It's on
you're not gonna
MSG
get
and NHL Network. It's on MSG.
I know,
too.
but they'll have his feed in between periods on NHL, and they'll have a different game on. So I don't know. They do
All right.
all the games.
I think they cover both all the games in the intermissions. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something
Okay.
you guys could probably talk about often.
Well,
But anyway,
great
Coach,
job, guys.
Did you learn anything? Are you a little more sold on analytics now, or are you still anti-analytic?
I told you I come around a little bit. I'm not going to harp on it. I feel like is a place for it.
Our other assistant coach comes into our weekly Thursday meetings with a ton of analytics for Coach Ed that he loves. So
Interesting.
just the important ones,
The
though.
truth,
Getting
the
There are
truth comes
certain-
out. Yeah.
No, there are certain analytics that I want to know. Yes, I'm not going to
Coach
say
Ed's Coach Ed's secret analytics guy. Which analytics?
The
but
biggest
I
one is
know
pucks
that
out
there
of
are
the zone.
certain guys. I know there are certain guys I'm going to put in certain situations, not based on analytics, based on their, like he said, puck battles, board battles, and stuff like that. Who's
The
going to
puck possession metrics.
Who's going to want
is
that
big.
puck more?
Puck possession metrics is a big one for sure.
Yeah.
That's the
Getting
one
the
I
puck-
like.
Clearing the defensive zone, completing a pass, things like that. That's really important stuff. But all right, let's move on. Thank you again, Mike, for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Amazing stuff. Looking forward to
All right,
seeing
we
you
got
at
three.
another
What was
game.
that? Three guests from NHL Network. We got to try
Yeah.
to keep a circuit going. That was great
Well,
job getting him, bud.
You got it, guys.
You got to go through
Enjoy it.
JMO's agent.
Yeah, that was really funny.
He gave
That was
him
really
that
funny.
little dig.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Great interview. That one was pre-recorded, so if you guys noticed us wearing different outfits, that's why. Hope you guys
And you
enjoyed
might
the
notice.
episode.
Yeah, you might notice cousin Ed on the.
Yeah, and obviously cousin
comment
Ed was here for that one for sure. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, we couldn't wait to drop that one for you guys. Another NHL Network personality checked off the list for us Rangers Ed boys, and really exciting stuff. I was looking at it before, and it's kind of just a surreal thing that we're able to talk to these people. I know I say it all the time, but it's just amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. What?
I'm sure that we said it in our post-interview little conference, but just the fact that these guys are regular people and they're willing to come on and talk, and their hockey intelligence is so far up there. But he listens and he talks. He met us at the game, shook our hand, took pictures, and took a while, but Eddie got him on, and they're busy people, and he came on. It was great.
Yeah.
Amazing. Very generous with their time, all of them. And yeah, like I said, great interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yeah, how about Jackie's at a Jackie Redmond's at a party or at a family function? She slips into a back room of the house. Mike Kelly's putting his 2-year-old daughter to sleep, and he comes on after. It's like they're regular people,
Yeah, it's great. Stars. They're just like us, right?
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's really funny, and hopefully we'll be able to see Mike at another game soon. And yeah, hopefully we're able to get some more interviews for you guys. So definitely stay tuned, subscribe, rate, review, follow us on social medias, all that good stuff. All right, before we end the episode, let's do some trivia.
The trivia, it's time to throw it over to Mikey P with your Rangers Ed 150, the fastest 150 seconds in the National Hockey Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rangers Ed 150. We're almost at the All-Star break, but we got a quick week of hockey to squeeze in before we get there. First off, in hockey news, Hockey Newfoundland has reinstated the post-game handshake after the backlash they received from absolutely everyone. Corey Perry signed a $775,000 one-year deal with the Edmonton Oilers, and Aiden Hill will be back between the pipes after missing 6 weeks with an undisclosed injury. Out west in the Pacific Division, the Canucks continue to reign supreme atop the division, with Vegas and Edmonton finally cracking the top 3. LA has lost 10 of their last 12 and fell to 4th place as Cam Talbot appears to be coming down to earth after that early season high he was on. And Seattle finally cooled off as well after losing 4 straight following an 8-game win streak in December and early January, and they have dropped down to 6th place in the division. Further east in the Central Division, Winnipeg is still on top despite losing Mark Scheifele to a lower body injury on January 11th against Chicago, and they are followed by Colorado and Dallas. Winnipeg did get Kyle Connor back last week, which will hopefully offset Mark Scheifele's absence for the time being, and Dallas as well got Jake Ottinger back off of injured reserve after missing over a month with a lower body injury. At this point in the season, Nashville is still sticking around in that 4th spot, but it's unlikely we see any of the bottom 5 teams in this division in anything but a wild card spot come season's end. Officially back east in the Atlantic Division, Boston is still in that number 1 spot, followed by Florida, Toronto, Detroit, and Tampa. Top 5 in this division are separated by 12 points, with Tampa and Detroit picking up their pace of play over the last couple weeks, and the Atlantic has subsequently re-emerged as the most competitive division in the NHL. Quick news out of Florida, Alexander Barkov has now missed 3 straight games for the Panthers with a lower body injury, and Shane Pinto has finally returned from his half-season suspension for sports betting to the Ottawa Senators. Finally, in the Metro Division, the Rangers are still on top, followed by the Flyers, Hurricanes, Islanders, and Capitals. The Islanders, Caps, and Devils have all stumbled a bit lately, dropping 5 of their last 10 apiece, and Pittsburgh continues to wallow away in 7th place with a terrible power play. The Devils have got the injury bug pretty badly, with Jack Hughes out since January 5th, with no hopes of returning before the All-Star break. And despite Palat and Nosek returning to the ice, neither is ready to skate with the team, so don't look to see them in Devils uniforms anytime soon. We have 3 tilts for the Rangers this week. First off, they're finishing up a West Coast swing in San Jose on Tuesday night, followed by Vegas at home on Friday, and away at Ottawa on Saturday. Last 3 before the All-Star break, so be sure to tune in next week for more updates. Until then, this has been your 150.
Mikey P.
That was a legit 150.
That was crisp, too. Didn't stumble over his word once. I don't know. How many takes did that take, Mikey? We gotta tell us the secret.
Let's see over under.
Mrs. 150 had to be in the background directing him or something. I don't know. But great job, Mikey. Thanks again, as always.
One thing he didn't mention, and we didn't mention, what about those Islanders and their new coach?
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't mention that. Patrick Waugh, across town over here, has signed with the Islanders as their newest head coach. I have some thoughts on the matter, but I'm going to let Coach Ed go first.
I mean, I was watching the reviews. Reader was on talking about how his enthusiasm and positive reinforcement. He yells when they need to be yelled at. And he pats them on the back when he needs to. He claims his competitive level is like astronomical from when Reader came there when he was in like 2000, when he came to the Avalanche from Dallas. He said he couldn't even fathom that level. He thinks it's going to be a good thing. I mean, I don't really know. It was a little crazy when he coached the Avalanche. Maybe he learned a little, got humbled a little. He's supposed to be this big statistical genius. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm hoping he fails because he's coaching the Islanders. But, I wasn't a fan of Lane Lambert from last year. I asked Sean about that in our preview episode in the summer. And he said he deserved another chance, if I remember correctly. I didn't see it. I like to see some animation out of a coach. I never saw that out of him when I watched any games. And I don't know. I just didn't see him as a head coach. So I think it's a positive move for them. The bad part is every time Lamoriello has done that in his tenure, the team has succeeded. So
Good.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, my opinion, I mean, it's definitely a positive thing for the Islanders. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's going to end well or going to go very well once Barzal or whoever else decides to not playing according to Patrick Waugh's plan. I mean, if a coach like Barry Trotz is benching Barzal, what do you think is going to happen with Patrick Waugh? You know, so that was my first thought. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like what you said. He's a little bit more laid back with statistics and all that stuff. I know Barzal's a pretty good statistical player and analytically he's pretty good, but if there's any eye tests involved, I think there's going to be a lot of upset Islander fans when Barzal's riding the pine a little bit.
did you see any highlights of him coaching? Like they showed like clips
He's a maniac.
last night? Yeah.
Yeah, he's a maniac.
They said he got his 10,000 steps in just going between the assistant coaches on the bench. You watch the highlights; it's insane.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's got to be tough to deal with for 82 games plus playoffs as a player. I don't know. I don't know. The competitiveness is obviously a good thing only to a certain point, I think. If it's over competitive, especially as a coach, it might be too much, but we'll see. Enough about the Islanders. Mikey, what do you got for trivia? Oh, before we get into trivia, I didn't want fans to be disappointed. We're not doing Stars of the Week. Didn't want to do it without Cousin Ed, and didn't want to be a little negative with the lack of good highlights and all that stuff in this stretch. So let's go right into trivia.
So obviously this trivia is not going to count because Cousin Ed
God
wouldn't allow
forbid.
that. Yeah.
God forbid.
But I was looking at the stats and I was a little surprised at this player. Who leads the team in penalty minutes so far this season would have been my trivia question.
Who leads the team in penalty minutes?
Oh, we're not doing the timer?
Yeah, no, because this is for fun.
It's a casual
Penalty
one. So
minutes? I think I know
It's
it, but I'll give Coach Ed a chance.
It's a surprise answer.
I mean,
If it's the person I'm thinking of, I think it's like an in-between. Like, you're not going to be surprised when you hear it, but I don't think you're going to guess it.
I'm
But
going to say
that's
Ryan.
I don't know if I'm right or not.
I'm going to say Ryan Lindgren.
who you got, Ed?
I'm going with Trocheck.
Maybe we should count it. Little Ed is right. Vincent Trocheck.
Yeah.
Leads the team in penalty minutes.
Yeah. It's not someone you would guess, but it seems like he's going to the box a decent amount just for like hookings and just like incident. I think we talked about it on our last episode, like a lot of incidental trips. That's what you wanted to give him for Christmas or for our holiday episode, Coach.
Yes.
So, yeah. Damn, Vinny Trocheck. Give me a point. Sneak it on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'll guess
with an answer.
Yeah, we'll see if Cousin Ed listens to the episodes in his absence.
What about that? I know we want to get going, keep it a little short, but what about that NHL incident on the hit on Fleury? Did you guys get to watch it?
I didn't. I missed it. I didn't see it on social media at all today. So maybe they're trying to keep it away from social media. But
basically, the NHL Network put out a video explaining why they suspended him 3 games. If you watch the video, first of all, I'm all for in this era where the goalies can handle the puck. They called it goalie interference. Fleury was behind the net with the puck
in the trapezoid, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know how that's goalie interference. I thought goalie interference was in the crease. So he got a penalty for goalie interference. I don't know if he got thrown out of the game at the time. They gave him a 3-game suspension. He came in flying from the blue line in. Fleury plays it behind the net. They said he could have turned a different angle. He could have changed it. But he kind of like stands up and goes between Fleury and the glass, and his shoulder hits Fleury in the head. But Fleury didn't like lean into him or anything. You know how goalies sometimes do that.
Yeah, I was going to say Fleury tends to be a little bit of a troublemaker. So you sure?
I know, but he supposedly got injured. It didn't look like to me in the video that he did. He went to play the puck, and like I said, he was facing the guy with the puck, and the guy like went between him and the glass. And the guy stood up. His name was Lockwood. Kind of stood up to somewhat avoid it. But they said the fact that he didn't slow down or create a different angle, they gave him a 3-game suspension.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, if a goalie leaves the crease in the net, you just become a player. Like, I don't know.
That's what I say. That's what I say.
Well,
in this era where they can make Fleury's got the capability of making a pass down ice and sending a guy in a breakaway. So
yeah,
you're fair game.
Shocker. I'm going to be in between on this one. I think that if the goalie's playing the puck in the trapezoid, you should be able to make a play on him, like a poke check, a stick check. I mean, even a slight bump. But as soon as he gets rid of the puck, you shouldn't be allowed to finish any kind of a check or prevent him from getting back into the net. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I guess it's not a bad reasoning, but I want you guys to watch the play. Maybe we'll discuss it.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure I know. I could picture what you're talking about. I mean, the play happens all the time, but I think if they were to incorporate any kind of a rule like that, I think like you shouldn't obviously be able to lay the goalie out. I mean, but we want to keep it safe for them.
No, I don't say that.
Somewhat of a play, and then, like I said, you shouldn't be able to prevent him from getting back into the crease. I think that's like one of the main. That's probably one of the main reasons for the rule, other than protecting their health, I guess. But preventing them from getting back into the crease is probably why they call it goalie interference, because you're preventing them from like doing their job, I guess you can call it.
Right.
You know.
I understand your reasoning. I understand
3-game suspension? No, I don't think so. If it was a on-purpose head check, that's a different story. But I doubt the guy did it on purpose.
If you see, maybe I'm wrong, but the guy stands up to like avoid a clear hit, like to squeeze by.
Yeah.
And his shoulder catches Fleury. Like after he hits the puck, his head goes down, and his shoulder like catches him in the head. But again, is it goalie interference if the guy comes out and plays a puck? The guy comes out and makes a hockey play on the puck. He's not smothering it. He's not making a save. I'm all for the in the crease goalie interference because I know the whole thing about running a goalie and to change a game and all that. I'm for that. But if he's able to come out and make a play on the puck, I kind of disagree with it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
What?
No, I was just going to bring up Fleury's on my fantasy team, so that kind of sucks.
I don't know if he got a concussion for it or not, but I know he's injured. I don't know if they put him on the IR.
Well, I hope he's okay. I love Fleury. Great for the game. Second all-time win. So congrats to him for that, for sure.
Yeah, I love it too. I think he's great. He's funny. He's a character.
Yeah. All right. With that, good episode, guys. Shout out to all of our fans. George over at George's Hockey Corner. Thank you for your question this week. Nate, thank you for another question. Keep them coming, pal. Good luck the rest of the way with your season over in Brick, New Jersey. And, hopefully the Rangers can turn it around for next episode and hopefully a little bit more positive. And I really hope you guys enjoy that interview because, like I said, we definitely did. And hopefully we'll be able to get Mike on again and talk some more analytics.
Oh, yeah, it was great. Shout out to Lucarelli Law, this episode's sponsor.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to do the little spiel. If you're down in Florida and need a lawyer, head on over to Lucarelli Law and tell them the boys of Rangers Ed sent you.
And if you're up in New York on Long Island and you need a kitchen countertop, head on over to Bella Marble.
And Old Country Tile.
Long Island, and if you're on Long Island and you need a tile backsplash or a bathroom floor, head on over to Old Country Ceramic Tile.
If you're
go ahead, Mike.
If you're in Long Beach and you want a little snacky poo or whatever, some good food, head on over to Sorrento's
for your game day meal.
Roger that.
And last but not least, if you have a sweet tooth and you want some Tennessee lovin', head on over to Suter's Sweet Treats and try all of their goodies over there because they never cease to amaze us, and I'm sure you'll feel the same way. So shout out to the Suter sisters as always, and all of our sponsors for allowing us to do this, and for all the love and support you guys give us. Thank you to the fans as well. Love you guys.
Love you guys.